How far would you go to get an awesome room on deck one? This is the lowdown for lower decks. Good morning, all starships in the Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta quadrants. I am your host, Josh Pritchett. This is the Lowdown on Lower Decks here on the Movers and Shakers Unlimited Network. I have to let y'all know my good friend and partner in crime, Chris Pabone, will be unable to be with us this weekend. But we're thinking about him and hope everything's okay. But we will be joined in a little bit later in the show by a new and interesting person we've never had on the show before. His name is Tony Kim. And we're very excited about having him on. We'll talk more about him in a moment. But first, a quick recap of this week's Lower Decks. So without further ado, let's hit it. Okay, so the episode opens with our heroes down in the bottom end of the ship where they're all bunked in and, they realizing, hey, we're all really cramped in here. Why is that? It's just too many people on this ship. Suddenly, Captain Freeman comes through wearing an artifact that has given her godlike powers to change the inside of the ship into an ancient god's temple. You might remember something very similar happening in an episode from season 7 of Star Trek The Next Generation when Data found a similar masked object and it took him over and mutated parts of the ship. So after that happened, the engineering department was really racking up the overtime trying to get the ship put back together and try to clear all the ancient alien artifacts out of the systems. And of course, when you're working hard like that, it does tend to overwhelm people. So our friends in engineering were clearly stressed out. So Captain Freeman decided it would be a great time to call a mandatory vacation for the engineering department and decided to take them to a special Federation spa spaceship where they could, do what you do at a spa and take mud baths, that sort of thing. Just not think about work for a few hours and just pamper yourself. So our good friend Sam Rutherford was going there with the rest of the engineering team, while Tendi, Mariner, and Boiler were all back aboard the Cerritos when they remembered, oh wait, the annual ship-wide Get a Better Room lottery was going on, and they were under the impression that there were 4 quarters on deck 1 that had just come open, and they decided they would put their names into the hat to try to get those quarters. But then they found out that their rivals on Delta Shift had decided that they were going to cheat and hack into the computer to give themselves an advantage in getting those rooms. So when our heroes found out about it, they decided that they too needed to, hack into the computer and, play, dirty. So, unfortunately, this particular computer access was in a very remote part of the ship, and they needed to go about a very Lord of the Rings esque manner through the Jeffries tubes to get to it. Um, so after they got through a holodeck program that Shanks and the Doctor were running, that was, if you're familiar with the old Warren Beatty movie Bonnie and Clyde, it was a lot like that. And so after our heroes stuck through that, they started to make their way through the lower parts of the ship to try to get to this mainframe before um, Delta shift got to it. Meanwhile, Sam Rutherford and the rest of the engineering crew are aboard the Spa ship with Captain Freeman. And it is not going well because they seem to be unable to stop working. Everything they try to do to get them to stop, they continue to find ways to work or to, you know, uh, basically they just can't seem to stop doing it. And Freeman is getting more and more agitated, and the person running the spa is also getting more agitated. So clearly there's a lot more stress going on there than was first realized. Meanwhile, Beckett, Boimler, and Tindy have made their way through an area below the hydroponics bay and are exposed to a hallucinogenic, which does not affect Tindy because she's an Orion, but is quite hilariously affects Beckett and Boimler. And after Tindy gets them out of the situation, uh, rather hysterically, they then continue on their quest to find the computer mainframe. Uh, it necessitates them, going. Then they finally run into their arch nemesis, Delta Shift, as they're in the last leg of their quest. And what ends up happening is they have to wait for this particular hatchway to open up. It's not one they can open themselves. And they sit down and kind of have this sort of bonding with the Delta shifters, which lasts until, of course, obviously the hatch opens and the Delta shifters jump through the hatch and it closes. So luckily, Boimler happens to notice that some liquid from the hydroponics bay is uh, going down another area of the Cerritos, another Jeffries tube, and they go in after they followed in, realizing that they have a way to get out of this particular area that they're stuck in. Meanwhile, back aboard the Spa, Captain Freeman has pretty much lost it. She can't seem to let go of the stress. They tried everything. They tried puppies. They tried bunnies. Finally, the engineering team has basically dismantled a piece of equipment and turned it into a giant de-stressor refrigerator thing. And they put the captain in there, and 10 seconds later, she comes out and she's feeling great. The spa person though wants the device thrown out of the ship, and she apparently has been infected by Freeman's stress levels. Meanwhile, Mariner, Boimler, and Tindy reach the mainframe, and they discover that in fact it is not 4 quarters on deck one that are available. It's 1 quarter on deck four, which is still pretty good. But they decide that it's not fair for them to that they don't want to disadvantage each other, that they would not be together as much anymore if one of them wanted and took that set of quarters over. So they decide to just leave Delta Shift to do it and ruin their friendship. But then they find out that Delta Shift won the lottery. However, they all decided that they would just share the quarters together. So that's what happened there. And Sam was not entirely happy to find out that they hadn't won the quarters. And the episode pretty much ends there. Um, And, overall, yet another successful and highly funny episode of Lower Decks. So now is the time when we are going to move into our midway segment, The Good, the Bad, and the Gorn. And joining me today is a brand new special guest. His name is Tony Kim. He is the creator of. He, sorry, folks, I will get that information. Hero Within, a clothing line based on superhero themed clothing that we're going to get him to tell us about. And he also does the show Crazy About Comic Con. Welcome today, Mr. Tony Kim. Hi, Tony.
Hello,
Welcome.
greetings. Hello,
Uh,
everyone. Thanks for having me.
oh, thank you for coming aboard today. Did I miss anything there?
No, it's the Crazy for Comic Con is the my social handles and my personal website. But yeah, Hero Within is my company, and yeah. So thank you again for having me. I'm excited to trek out with you all.
Oh, thank you for joining us today. And so, did I get that right? That it's superhero themed clothing? Like, what do you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
generally?
It's yes, pop culture kind of inspired clothing. And we've done Marvel and DC and Star Trek and Godzilla, Doctor Who, and we basically do kind of subtle designed clothing for fandom.
Nice. And where can people find this? Where can we?
HereWithinStore.com. If you just search Here Within on all the things, you'll find us.
Okay, well, we will ask our audience to please go check that out, and let them know Low Down on Lower Decks sent you. So, getting into this segment, this is a segment we do every week called The Good, the Bad, and the Gorn, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. So Tony, what did you like most about this week's episode?
There's a lot. I love that each week Lower Decks gives us a little glimpse into the life of lower deckers. And I love about the show is that it's able to bring in these little Easter eggs from the Star Trek lore overall. And like you mentioned in your recap, it was so great to see the captain possessed by the mask that we've seen from that past season 7 Star Trek episode and or the next gen episode. And it's kind of funny because next gen back in season 7, they were really like having to dig in deep and get very creative with their storytelling after 7 years. And that was such a bizarre and weird episode. And so to see that they took an episode that was so crazy like that with about a mask possessing relic thing, um, for them to be able to poke fun at that was really fun. It was really great. It was just really creative, and even though it was just like a little snippet, and but the fact that it was used to be a plot point that really kind of tipped over the engineering team was really fun. And then another fun Easter egg that I loved was the fact that the spa director was the same race from the character from the Star Trek the animated series. Arex, I think is his name.
Yes.
And the fact we haven't really seen his race. I don't think we've seen his race since then. Not that in my memory, but the fact that they're able to again draw from something that's relatively unknown, I guess, and to be able to use a character like that was just awesome. And every episode is always peppered with great Easter eggs that we just don't get a chance to kind of explore in maybe in the live action series. And so, but yeah, there's so much fun in every episode. And like for instance, I think one thing that I really loved about this one was the fact that we explored the hydroponics bay which is basically like the roots and swamp system that. Yeah, again, I don't think we've ever seen that on a ship before. We've seen the botanical gardens, but I don't think we've ever really seen the underbelly of that. And the fact that they actually have like a swamp on board is really kind of crazy. And I guess it makes sense, but where do you even how would you even house something like that is crazy. But so I think just being able to explore through never before seen aspects of a starship was really cool. So I think that was probably the strength of this show, is that we were able to really see like the inside of the navigation dish, just all kinds of different areas that we've not been able to explore. So when we talk about boldly going where no one has gone before, we went there with inside the belly of the ship.
Yeah. So I was just looking up that character's alien race. The character you're thinking of is Lieutenant Arex from
Right.
Star Trek, the original animated series.
Yeah.
He was a male Edosian.
Dojan,
Um,
right.
yes, and we have seen another Edosian here on Lower Decks in the first season aboard that medical
Wow.
ship when Boimler had that transporter accident. And
Right. Okay.
yeah, apparently this was a special medical ship that
Mm.
transported Starfleet officers who had been really badly injured by things like that. And it was, a real care center. And everybody thought it was going to be a really horrible, creepy place because the starship was real gothic. And the Adoshin at the end of the episode was like, God, why do we have the lights turned down so low? And it's like, you can barely see anything. We should like brighten it up, maybe put some earth tones on the inside of this thing. I don't know who did this. I really
Yeah.
don't. But yes, I did not.
But really cool, a really cool design for a character. I really wish
Yeah,
I understand why, like in live action, that would maybe cost prohibitive to do that character, but he's awesome, and so it would be really cool you know, to
you
have
know,
him.
yeah, I agree that doing CGI on a weekly basis would get very expensive very fast.
Yeah,
However, I don't know if you've been watching Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but they've been doing brilliant stuff with puppetry.
yeah.
So I could see them doing an Edosian in a live action episode has a puppet, a semi CGI kind of thing, like
Well,
the way they did.
Eric's from the original animated series was a navigator, which I could see that would be very helpful when you have three arms. To be able to
Oh yeah,
you could you can really cover the console with three arms. So
that would be really cool. I
yeah,
think that they should. I mean, we always hope that Alex Kurtzman is listening in on us, and we'll take some ideas we have under suggestion. And I mean, yeah, it would be kind of cool to have a live action Arex
mm,
aboard uh, the Enterprise, or and uh, we do know that the character did show up in the Star Trek New Frontier novels written by
uh,
Peter David. Anyway, getting back to the episode though, I really thought it was cool that okay, they had to go in this really weird. They couldn't just go straight to this computer thing. They had to go to this really deepest, darkest part of the ship that almost nobody goes to. So you're kind of having a bit of exploration inside your own ship. I also love the fact that um, the first step to getting there is they have to go through the holodeck. They have to cut through this portion of the holodeck, and there's a live program. And Zaxxon, the doctor, the cat doctor, are doing a reenactment of Bonnie and Clyde in a old black and white movie, and Mariner's just making fun of the concept of capitalism because they don't have anything like that. And Boimler's like, "Yeah, wait, I know what this is. This is something from old Earth history. It's called a bank." And Mariner's like, "Oh, yeah. May I please withdraw some worthless pieces of paper that have no intrinsic value?" I'm just like laughing about that. Um, I loved how, obviously you go through a swamp with very exotic plants. You can't help but have a scene, real Cheech and Chong esque kind of scene where people are getting a little high. And That's really quite hilarious, especially when you're doing it in animation. You can do so much with that. But it is by the people that gave us Ren and why do I keep blanking on the name of this show? Well, you know the one about that's kind of a parody, Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where Rick and Morty, it was very much that. Um, I had to laugh at the fact that Freeman was just kind of losing. She was the one who was really stressed out, and that she really. I mean, because it does speak to something about mental health because I think being possessed by alien objects like that, yeah, there's got to be some sort of physical or mental trauma going on in that situation that needs to be addressed. And you can't all be like doing it like Captain Kirk. Oh, I was possessed by an alien last week, but I'm fine now. Back to work. Let's yeah, we can't do that anymore, and that's a
Yeah.
good thing because you're not supposed to be able to do that at all. And I think it's a real situation of projection there by her that okay, she's thinking she's doing fine, but in fact she's the one with a lot of stress, and the engineering team is like, okay, they're clearly stressed, but what makes them less stressed is finding the solution to a problem. They're problem
Mm-hmm.
solvers. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really quite good. And the I found the whole going. I just keep going back to this. Shanks and the Doctor's relationship is rather, because the Delta shifters kind of make a point that when they went through there, it was pretty disturbing. That
Yeah.
they, yeah. So that stuff like that can be awkward. Yeah, I
For I did, I did a for a number of years, for probably a decade. I was involved in live production, and so events and that sort of thing, producing events, and so I had to lead like several different tech teams, right? And the crews were made up of like lighting and sound and video and audio and all that, and so I was kind of working with a lot of technically minded people, and so we were, of course, like socializing a lot and going on retreats and all that, and they were, just like those engineers. I mean, just super overworked and stressed out, but then also like problem solvers. And everywhere we went and everything we did, everything was always like being tweaked and engineered, and they just the mindset of an engineer is was very much like that, where um, they're always trying to improve things and always trying to fix things, and it's very hard for them to turn their brains off, and so I got a big chuckle out of kind of seeing the Star Trek is already nerdy, but you got the nerd. It's like the nerdy within the nerd. It's like those engineers are. I think they're really depicted very accurately as far as how engineers and techs are.
Yeah, they do a great job of that, and I think with a show, any show from the Star Trek universe, I think you're going to see that a lot. Having because they're around technical people, especially now in this day and age, we all have that one or two friends that's a tech person that works in an IT department somewhere, and they talk about their job and how these things are happening and how this is going on, and what crazy thing they did up on the first floor that screwed everything up, and but a lot of people thrive in that kind of problem solving environment where they solve problems. That's all they do any given day of the week. So yeah, I really enjoyed that part too. Because I think there's certainly if we go back to the original Star Trek again and go back to the episode The Trouble with Tribbles, Scotty really didn't want to take shore leave. He wanted to stay on the Enterprise and keep working. But Kirk made him leave and go board the space station. And after the bar fight with the Klingons, spoiler alert, Scotty was happy to get confined to quarters just so he could get caught back up on his technical manuals. And because that's what he wanted to do, keep doing research all day. That's what made him happy.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's a hallmark of all the engineers of Star Trek. Certainly, I mean, even when like O'Brien is grumbling and complaining, he's always happy that he came up with a solution that fixed the space station or fixed the runabout or whatever. It was always an important thing. So, can you think of anything bad that went on in this episode?
um, I wouldn't say bad, but there's always little nitpicks, I guess. One thing I thought of was a really odd lottery for the room lottery because four rooms on deck one. Well, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, isn't deck one the bridge? I mean, I think that's the only space on the deck is the bridge, and so you know, I, I, it would make sense that there's a lottery on deck four, but deck one, I don't. I think every officer on board would understand that there isn't any living quarters on deck one, right? Am I incorrect with that assumption?
No, you are not. You sir have checked the technical manuals, and you are correct. I think the writers overlooked that. I think what they were meaning for was like the top deck where the senior officers are living.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
again, the fact that four rooms suddenly became open, and
right.
anybody could throw their names in a hat and try to be picked for one
Yeah,
of them is a bit odd.
right, right.
That
Especially
and
just for a ship that's kind of small, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and I'm sure that the lower deck people would notice that this officer or that officer was no longer aboard the Cerritos, and
yeah,
they needed to have, somebody, but another officer would probably come in there to
yeah,
fill that. But yeah,
yeah,
I guess there could. I mean, really, the lottery system more or less makes me think of like apartments in New York or something
yeah,
where people
yeah,
are like, okay, they put their name in a hat and hope they get
yeah,
this apartment or that apartment, and that
yeah,
get rent control and that good stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, I get it. It's kind of a a plot device. It was fine, but I was just kind of like deck one. That doesn't make any sense,
I
but sure.
thought about that too. Yeah, yeah, but I guess they felt like, well, if it's deck one, it's like and four rooms on deck one or something open. That was the
Yeah,
big motivating thing because
yeah,
as we saw at the end of the episode, um, Mariner thought, hey, wait a minute, we might lose our friendship if one of us is living in that room, and then it didn't occur to them until after that,
yeah,
oh, we could have moved four beds into that room and shared it, and it would have been party central up there. And now the Delta ship people have the room, and it's their party central. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
that
the only other bad thing I think of is while I like the design of the Cerritos, it kind of reminds me of the an upside down version of the Reliant, the USS Reliant with a separate pod, that's
yeah.
connecting between the nacelles. But my thing is like I've always wondered how do you even get access to that? I mean, the navigation array is a pretty significant part of the ship, and so if there's a issue or a problem with that you have to be able to get to it quickly. And I always wondered, like, are there like quick passages through the warp nacelles that allow them to get to, like, why would you design a whole separate part
Mhm.
of this, the ship that you can't get to, right? And so and it looked like that from this episode that this is the quickest way they can get to this navigation array is like to have to go through this maze of the nacelles. And and it's same thing with the USS Reliant. I mean, you have the photon torpedo pod, the weapons pod up top, and anything goes wrong with that, then how do you even get to that thing quickly when you have to go through? I guess go through those little, the pylons, whatever that lead to it. But um, so it's kind of always bugged me about ships that are designed like that because I'm like that's not practical. And why would you design a separate part of the ship that you can't have access to?
Yeah, no, I think they are supposed to go through the pylons. I think the turbo shafts are in there, and I think you're right though. It is not really a practical design, but I think we're supposed to get this impression from the design of the Cerritos and its sister California class vessels
Yeah,
is this idea that okay, the lower decks are like so low you can't even get there directly. They're just way down there.
Yeah.
And everybody else, all the important people are supposed to live up in the saucer section. But in fact, actually, the premise of the show is about the people that work down in the bowels of the vessel
Mm.
and have to do all the grunt work. So, yeah, that's where we spend all our time. And, everybody else is living kind of the more glamorous starship hero kind of thing up in the saucer. So, I guess that's what they were kind of going for, even though,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right that it is not a practical design for a spaceship at all, not even
Yeah.
close.
So those aren't necessarily bad things. They're just always this kind of bugged me that um, they're obviously using that as a plot device to make an interesting episode. But it's always kind of odd to me that you design a ship that way. So did you find anything bad? I guess
Uh,
about the episode.
no, not really. Although I am wondering where is Jennifer? I mean,
Mm.
we found out last episode that she and uh, Mariner are kind of getting serious. So it's like, where's Jennifer? What's going on there?
Yeah.
We need some of our favorite Andorian on the ship. So wonder what's going on there. But yeah, there was that. But otherwise, no. I thought overall I was very happy with the episode.
I do like the idea that there's different shifts. Like you got beta and you got delta, and then presumably there's alpha and zeta. In a different shifts, um, and I don't know if it's considered bad, but the fact that like delta like lulled them into a false sense of security and then like betrayed them and got the room lottery and all that
Hmm.
was like it was uh I I was like hopeful that they were gonna figure out a peaceful way to resolve it, and the fact that like Delta like stole it out from underneath them was like, um, it's kind of a bummer, but it's at the same time it's kind of fun thinking that there's different crews out there that they don't even know each other. Which I was like, oh yeah, I guess if you're serving on a starship and the ship has a crew that's functioning around the clock, um, that you're basically gonna not even know like half the ship because they're working opposite of you, which was always kind of funny to me when you think about every Star Trek series, like Strange New Worlds or Next Gen or whatever. Like, are they all working like 9 to 5, and that's when the episode is actually taking place, or wouldn't the senior bridge crew be somewhat split? Where there's people that are operating on the other hours of the day, and maybe there's a whole nother senior staff that we don't ever see, but they take over when the cameras are off and they're running the whole ship. But
Yeah.
anyway, interesting idea. Not necessarily bad, but then I just thought of like, oh yeah, there's like a whole nother crew that's operating the ship that's they don't know them, and there's naturally they're competitive with them or whatever, and they've got
Yeah.
thoughts about the other crew, the other teams, and so I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think from earlier episodes like Data's Day and Chains of Command, we do know that there are, and they do
Mm,
mention this, there are other shifts.
yeah.
So, like the junior officers, the ensigns, those people are kind of in those like 4 or 5 hour rotations
Yeah.
um, that are divided up, and they just kind of they're there, they work their shift, and then a lot of them might have other duties to perform, and then or they go take naps, whatever.
Mhm.
And obviously you have the big wigs, the officers, the senior officers who are up in the saucer section, and they're way up on the bridge and then running engineering and all the other important functions of the ship, and they're kind of on call 24/7. So but yeah, this is a show that's not like the other Star Treks, that in that it doesn't focus on that bridge crew. It focuses on the people working down in the lower section. And so yeah, this is more about their story. It's like, yeah, we those Delta shift jerks are real bums and we can't stand them, and where it's Freeman, if this was a regular Star Trek show, we'd be seeing Freeman and the crew up on the bridge a lot more. So, but we don't, and I think that's something we don't get to sealize. Yeah, this is kind of like, yeah, this is when we work and when you work, and we don't really see you guys because you guys are asleep when we're awake, kind of thing. So we don't really know you guys very well. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously there is a rivalry there with people trying to say, who does what to whom, because you know different shifts must have different strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of it. But it is nice to sort of see these different shifts, and maybe they do compete with each other, like inter office kind of competitions to keep things
Yeah.
lively.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so yeah, I bet that's sort of it. But yeah, apparently in this case, you know, Delta they play really dirty because they wanted that room. Damn it!
Yeah.
So yeah, um, yeah. So that was pretty impressive. Um, so okay, we talked earlier about the alien race, and so what are some theories of what you think is going to be happening going forward? Uh, We do know that they were getting ready to meet up with the Carlsbad for a special mission or something. Uh, don't know if we're going to see them. We just saw the Carlsbad last week, of course,
Mm-hmm.
in the episode about the Mind Stones that were kind of opening up everybody's first their fantasies and then their nightmares. So
Yeah.
is that
Do you
just
think
sort of
maybe the episodes were? Do you think the episodes were switched? Maybe. Do you think maybe that they meant to do this episode before, just because it would seem to connect with that other the last
yeah,
episode.
that's what I thought too. I kind of thought that was a possibility that they had switched up episodes by mistake, that they had meant to put this one ahead of last week's episode.
Mm.
Um, but
I mean, since the episodes are largely so episodic, I think that it's possible that they just production wise, for whatever reason, like this episode fell behind, so they had to like bump one up or something
yeah,
like that, and so it's
yeah, I
possible.
think that's possible. I mean, Star Trek does have a history of that happening. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the first episode of the original series to air was the Man Eater, and that was supposed to
Mm,
be episode 4 or 5, I think. They were
mm,
supposed to start with the episode where No Man Has Gone Before, which was the second pilot of Star Trek. When it was the first episode that William Shatner appeared as Captain Kirk.
mm,
Um, and then I guess the Corbomite maneuver was supposed to be the second one. I'd have to go back and
mm,
look up the order, but yeah, the Man Eater was supposed to have been much later, and they should have
mm,
put that one on first. So,
mm.
um, that I mean, no, I'm sorry, they didn't. They shouldn't. But they meant to, that got put on first. That was the first
Right.
episode of Star Trek we saw in 1966. So I mean, maybe it's possible they had meant to air this episode before last week's, and something happened and it got things mixed up a little bit. So it's hard to say, but still it was a good episode. I think they did a great job with it. Thank you. Good job on noticing that, by the way. But I don't know. We might end up seeing our friends on the Carlsbad again. They really seem to hit it off with the Cerritos.
Mm,
So
mm-hmm.
um, let's see. Well, sorry. Go ahead.
Just to say, I don't know which category this falls into, but it's always great to see space stations, and so they were approaching that the what was it called, the Dove or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's it. Yeah, that was the
Yeah,
spa. Yeah.
and it was like that facility was enormous, and it was
Mhm.
like it was really big, and there was others. I think every Trekkie, like whenever there's a establishing shot, there's a space station and there's other ships in the background. Everyone's always like looking at all the different ships and all that, and it's always really fun to see new structures in outer space as well as other
Yeah.
ships that have not been on there before, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and the fact that that space station, it looked like to me it was designed to look like a luxury liner.
Yeah, right, and it's something like that.
Yeah, I'm actually reading a sci-fi novel right now called Dead Silence, which is about this crew that finds a luxury liner in
Mm-hmm.
outer space,
Mm-hmm.
and they the ship was actually designed to look like something like the Titanic
Mm-hmm.
from some centuries before. But I just bring that up. It's a really
Yeah.
interesting book. Um,
We
yeah,
didn't mention anything really about the dove itself, but I love all the different rooms that you had, and the puppy room was like awesome. Like if you can imagine, like of course, if you're gonna have the ultimate, whether it's the 21st century or the 24th century or 20 whatever century you're in, the a puppy room is a must, and the fact that they had a puppy that had like the little in a little wheelchair, it's
oh,
like it was, yeah. And then I love the little jab at uh and even if you like cats, we have a cat room, no judgment, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but
That was
yes,
funny. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah,
yeah, and the one Klingon room where he's like stabbing everything, and so really fun.
yeah. He's actually gone over his time limit, but we're afraid to go over there and tell him.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
just yeah, I thought that was it was really fun to again explore other parts of Star Trek lore that we don't get the
Yeah, and
chance
it,
to see.
it
So
it it is fun, like with the whole going back to the opening with the mask, and it's
yeah.
like, yeah, all right, we're referring back to this old episode of TNG, and it's like by now some of the stuff should be standard operating procedure. We ought to have a manual on what to do in this situation, so we don't get caught. I mean, because in a kind of a semi military environment like Starfleet, everybody's having okay, we've encountered something like this before. Let's write it out in a manual how to deal with this situation because the Enterprise already dealt with it a few years ago. So let's write down what they did and how we should deal with it going forward if we ever run into this again. And sometimes, yeah, it's clearly that somebody didn't read some of these mission statements or they didn't check the manual on what to do about the captain's possessed by an alien creature that is, you know, taking over its mind. So, and trying to turn the ship into a flying temple. Um, yeah, and it is a shout out. And as I always keep saying about Lower Decks, it's a Star Trek show made by Star Trek fans for other Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
And if you've kept up with this show, for most of the last 50 some years, you're going to pick up on all these references to things like the alien mask and like Chief O'Brien being the most important person in Starfleet history and
Mm-hmm.
all these other little things that are
Mm-hmm.
going to keep your attention. So yeah, kudos to the gang at Lower Decks once again for writing another great episode here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think though, as far as theories and predictions, it's very possible by the end of the season. I mean, you had the whole thing where Mariner was sort of listing out. Okay, well, Boiler's probably going to be dead. You and Sam are going to get promoted. She said this to Tendi. You and Sam are going to get promoted. I'm going to get kicked out of Starfleet. So let's try to enjoy our time together as much as we can before all that happens.
Yeah.
And, are we predicting the season finale? I mean, are we dropping hints here? Because I mean, in season 3 of TNG, there were all these hints that the Borg were going to come back from season 2 and they were going to be a big part of season 3. And oh boy, were they. If we recall, best of both worlds. And so I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe Mariner's predictions will come to pass, but
Yeah.
then they'll have to find a way to get Mariner back into Starfleet. So hard to say.
Well, what else interesting is, so back at San Diego Comic Con this past summer,
Mhm.
they announced the live action or the crossover episode with Strange New Worlds, and I don't know where season 2 of Strange New Worlds and if it's going to be season 4 of Lower Decks. I don't know where the timeline is, if they're going to be running concurrently, or if if we'll get some sort of like lead up to that in at the end of season 3, and then the crossover episode happens on Strange New Worlds, or I wonder where the if we'll get any sort of like, you know,
Hmm.
hint or some sort of story plot point that leads up to that. But I'm like super curious about when we'll get, anything that leads up to that storyline of how you cross, because it's it's two different timelines because of, I mean,
Yeah.
the lower decks timeline is what,
Late
70, 80
24th.
years.
Yeah, late
Yeah,
24th century, beginning 25th century.
yeah, right.
It's somewhere close to Picard time,
Yeah,
or just
yeah.
before
So
Picard. Yeah.
it's there's going to be some time travel involved or something like that. I feel like that they're going to have to, they'll give us something. I don't know if, again, if it's going to be at the end of this season or sometime in next the
Yeah.
next season 4. But I don't know if they've actually announced a season 4 yet, or who knows. So
I think season 4 is a given. I think
yeah,
I'm not sure when the live action episodes could take place. We know it's going to happen. And that what's going to happen, of course, is you're going to have, well, it's going to be 2 episodes. One will be completely animated for both crews. The other one is going to be live action, so we're going to actually see the actors from Lower Decks in live action. We're going to see Jack Quaid with the purple hair.
yeah.
We're going to see I'm blanking on her name again. The actress who plays Tindy is going to be
Tawny
done
Newsom.
up. Yeah, and so everybody's going to be playing their characters just live action.
Yeah,
Um, and so that, I mean, obviously they're going to hit sort of a nexus point where both the Enterprise of the 2260s under the command of Pike and the Cerritos in the 2390s is going
yeah,
to intersect, and they have to join forces. But apparently, both casts have really hit it off. Apparently, Jack Quaid and Ethan Peck are become besties. So it's kind of a big to do. So everybody's, I think, is really anticipating that episode a lot. And given the fact that I think most fans consider these the top 2 best Star Trek shows on right now, I think it's going to be really cool.
I
So
wonder if they'll really be able to pull off. I mean, in an ideal universe, season 4 of Lower Decks is running, season 2 of Strange New Worlds is happening, and they, in the same week, they have the crossover episodes happening, so it's a really direct tie-in. Again, I don't know if the timelines will actually work out that way, but if they do, that would be incredible.
I think
So
that's
they
what they're
let
going
them,
to go for, because I mean
yeah,
I don't think they're going to like start one episode in somebody's season and then come back 6 weeks
yeah,
later with the follow up to that. I don't think that's how it's going to work. I think
yeah,
they are going to hit a nexus point there where they're going to run the shows congruently. I mean, a couple weeks ago when we had Star Trek Day, I was expecting a lot more announcements about future programs and things that would be coming up in the Star Trek universe. But we only saw like a new trailer for Picard, and we saw some advanced scenes for Strange New Worlds,
yeah,
and a clip from Prodigy, and some new sets for Discovery. But we haven't got any announcement about the Section 31 show, which we keep hearing about. We hope that gets made, because I'd love to see Michelle Yeoh return to Star Trek.
yeah,
Um, and there's all these talks about maybe they're going to finally do the Captain Worf show. Maybe they're going to do Captain Seven of Nine. Who knows? There's a lot of
yeah.
possibilities out there. But just sticking with Lower Decks, I think that I don't know. I'm sure that the live action thing is going to be something that we're going to get to see, the live action animated crossover, something we're going to see. It's going to be in 1 week. I'm just not sure when it's going to be, but they are making it. I mean, Anson Mont said in an interview that he really liked the 2-dimensional rendering they had done of him. My one question about that is, how tall is his hair going to be? Because that's,
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I think most people take it to calling it Pike's Peak at this point,
yeah,
but it's quite wonderful. So I don't know. So right now, I think as far as our crew, I think we made our predict. I made my predictions. Um, so in the meantime, do you want to tell people again? I think we're coming to the end of the show. So would you like to tell people again how to reach you and talk some more about your anything you got upcoming
Yeah.
with Hero Within?
Sure. So you can find me at on Twitter, crazy to number four Comic Con, crazy for Comic Con. That's my personal account where I tweet about all things Comic Con and pop culture related. And I have a my blog website is crazyforcomiccon.com. And of course, Here Within is on all the socials as well. And for Here Within itself, we had a great. I had to show this. We recently exhibited at 56-year mission in Las Vegas, which is a Star
Hmm.
Trek convention, and
Yeah.
so I had to show. I had a great. Let's see if you can get this in there. A great little meeting with Tawny Newsome. She
Yeah.
was wearing our. We have a command hoodie, and she was excited to be in that. And but yeah, so we are exhibiting all the time at different shows and conventions, and we just came from. Where did we just come from? Rose City Comic Con last weekend, and we're in a few weeks going to New York Comic Con,
Hmm.
and we do a Star Trek interactive experience at our big shows where it's just a Star Trek only focused booth where you can come in and we have a selection of different designs that you can customize with different patches and zipper pulls and pins and to be able to basically create your own sort of exclusive um, jacket. And so that's coming to New York Comic Con, and we're super excited about that. That's going to be October 6th through the 9th, and this is the same experience that we had at San Diego Comic Con in July, and these are at this time convention only exclusive. So none of these are online. We have several different designs that are not online yet,
Hmm.
and hopefully they will be after New York. But right now you can only get them at our major shows, and so yeah, definitely. If you can't make it to New York Comic Con, then check our website after sometime in mid October, and you'll see all of our new Star Trek designs post then.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you for telling us about that, Tony. I really like that hoodie that Tawny was wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, might have to look into getting one of those at some point. Well,
Yep.
as always, my book Bigfoot and Other Tales of the Supernatural is still available on Amazon and Kindle. You could reach me at Josh Pritchett Jr. on Facebook, or through the Star Trek Meetup group on meetup.org, or also on Facebook. Which, by the way, we had an awesome meeting yesterday. We went to the Uzvarhazy Center here at Dulles in near Dulles Airport, which is the part of the Air and Space Museum, and features many exciting aircraft, including the Space Shuttle Discovery.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, if you haven't been out there you live in Northern Virginia, DC, really should get out there sometime and check it out. It's a wonderful experience. So okay, well, Tony, it has been great having you here, and we hope um, you will come back and rejoin us another time. And
Yeah,
like I said, Chris Babone was unable to be here this week due to an emergency, but glad you could help fill in. We had you scheduled as our guest, but we're glad you were able to join in and help out, and we appreciate it, and hope you'll come back again another time.
absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. So until next week, I am Josh Pritchett, and this is Lowdown on Lower Decks here on the Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Please like and share and subscribe. Thank you. Live long and prosper.